Hello, my Shortline Rail friends. I hope you made it back safely. I'm back here in Niagara wine country, and it was an honor to meet all of you this week. I wanted to leave you with a few last things to think about as you're now back in the office, back in your home turf, thinking about how do you build a scrumptious, recognition-rich, rewards-grounded, and being able to really process how do you bring a rewards and recognition based focus into your organization. So I have a few very specific practical strategies. I hope you're excited about this because as you will remember, where we left off was that question of what will it take to help people to make the decision to opt in every day. In other words, every day a reason to stay. That was one of the things I left you with. And I talked about a stay interview, and I'm going to bring back that link so that you can download some questions that I have. And also, you may want to start a conversation with a few other people. It may be if you have an HR department, organizational development, training folks, it could be them. If you have an employee resource group around employee relations, it could be them. If you have union folks, why not partner with them to understand and explore what questions would we want to be asking people on a regular basis about what would it take to make you stay? Why do you stay? Why did you choose to work in this sector? Why did you choose to work in this organization? What makes you proud? All of these types of questions allow us to have a line of sight as to what really matters to people. And this is related to what we're talking about around the employee experience journey. And you remember I alluded to the fact that we are no longer focusing on just the whole getting people to choose to apply at the attract phase. It actually starts much earlier than that. And if you'd like to, by the way, learn more about this employee experience journey over the next couple of weeks, our team has some articles that we're releasing about this. So you can jump in and learn about those in two ways. One, if we're connected on LinkedIn, I have a newsletter I release every week. So you'll see that newsletter. You can even subscribe to it. And also on my website, greatnessmagnified.com, if you go to articles, you'll see those articles will be on my website. And then you can also subscribe to receive them in your inbox. But here's the nutshell. You get the sneak peek of this. One is explore. When people aren't even sure what career they want, if they're choosing to switch careers, if they're thinking about moving communities, this is that explore phase. We want to grab people's attention. And as you know, in fact, the addressing labor shortages in Canadian transportation, this is actually part of what they talked about across the whole transportation sector is needing to get people to even think about careers in transportation and to think about careers in rail. And preparing, helping people who maybe haven't written, ever had to do a cover letter or a resume, making sure that people have the ideas about what it would be like if you're in a remote rural community. How would they move there? How would they build a sense of communities? There's some things that may be very unique to your particular short line rail that you could do to help prepare people to feel like, you know what, actually I would like to relocate to your community, or I do feel like I can make a career of in rail. So that's prepare. Of course, attracting people, giving people a reason to see how this is a viable, valuable career option for them and why your organization really stands out. Obviously, the hiring process. We sometimes have very cumbersome hiring processes. Maybe we make people go through, a very boring submit your resume to this email address and nobody hears anything until maybe, somebody decides to call them for an interview. Or if you're a really big short line company, maybe you have an electronic system where people submit it, but it kind of feels very, very, non-relationshipy. So just, looking at that as you're going through your hiring process, how do you make sure that people feel a sense of connection? And you know what? Here's a little hot tip. Why not send people a thank you card at each point of the employee experience hiring journey? I've had clients where I've rebuilt their hiring experience, just this one slice of the employee experience journey. And when people write a handwritten thank you note, whoever is at that phase, so it might be student who's doing the screening, and then the HR person who's doing the first interview, the owner who's doing the final interview. A little note sent home, it leads to a much higher acceptance rate, and also a much higher rate of people who move on to the next phase of the interview process, and eventually lead to, and not only successful hires, a longer tenure of people staying. Making sure people have a really good onboarding process. That is everything from having the information that they need and really good training, right through to making sure that the low person on, in the pecking order, so to speak, isn't treated like a lesser person than everybody else who has experience. Contributing is making sure that people feel like their voice is seen and heard and matters. And that's all the way through, because that is how people then choose to have influence, where they choose to join the Joint Health and Safety Committee, what the employee resource group, why maybe they're willing to step into a supervisory capacity. This allows people to feel a sense of connection and a desire to advance. As we know that there is a lot of wage compression. Some of your people, frontline professionals who work the most number of overtime hours and special projects, they may make more money than their supervisor. So we need to give people a reason to want to advance and to take some of those additional opportunities. And that's often feeling like they have opportunities for growth, development, influence, and a sense of contribution. Depart, this is really key, is that when somebody's departing a role, you actually start the cycle through the whole phase again, such as in the hiring or the onboarding process. So just because somebody has been with your Shortline for a while doesn't necessarily mean that they don't need their own onboarding system. Because if you go from being a, let's say, a supervisor into your procurement team, those are very different roles. So making sure that just because we're hiring from within, or just because we're hiring somebody else who's worked for another Shortline or other rail sector, doesn't mean to say that they don't need a really thoughtful and planned out onboarding process. And also, if people are departing, whether it be short time for a paternity leave, or they're going and maybe they're going to they'd like to do a leave of absence and work in another country, let's say, and then come back. Why not consider giving them a leave of absence, and encouraging them to come back once they have had that experience, rather than totally lose them for good? And transition is a really key phase. Notice we didn't say retirement, because many people, in fact, I'm so sorry I've forgotten your name, but our Shortline professional, now rail owner of our Niagara system. Oh gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking. I'm having a middle-aged moment. Well, at almost 60 years in the rail profession, now owns a railway. So it just goes to show there is no such thing as retirement, and there's no such thing as somebody leaving the industry for good. We have lots of people, who newer generation of workers, who have side hustles. 50% of Canadians have a side hustle, whether it be they make cards in their Etsy store, right through to they have a growing business where they are considering their exit from their formal 9 to 5 ish 9 to 5. I know 9 to 5 doesn't exist in the rail sector, but you know what I mean, right? Their job, their job. So finding ways to be able to keep people, and maybe it's in a project capacity, perhaps it's in a part-time capacity. When people are retiring, going on paternity leave, exploring other career options, going back to school, don't look at them as resigning. Look at them as changing their nature of their role with you, so that maybe they're going to fulfill a really important function at peak times, at for stretch assignments and so forth. Now, as we move into, I want to really dive into that early part, the explore, prepare, attract phase, because this is one of our biggest missed opportunities, and it is so rarely considered part of the retention and recruitment experience. So let me dive into that. In fact, I went and I poked around a few of your websites. I looked on the RAC website for the Shortline conference, and you did a beautiful job of showing all of your association or organizations that belong. So I just went and poked around. I didn't look at everybody's, but here are some examples of how you can really attract people and help to prepare people to see that your sector is one that people want to come to. For example, let's say you have somebody who really wants to be part of bringing a greater they have a strong sense of social justice, of making sure that we rectify past wrongs for Indigenous people in Canada. And look at this example of right on the main page, you can see a land acknowledgement. In fact, this is probably the best, quickest version of a land acknowledgement I've ever seen. Whew, check, check. So what you show and share in terms of your support of Indigenous peoples, I mean, of truth and reconciliation, it doesn't have to be a political statement. However, demonstrating that you care, and many of your shortline rail sectors will be close to, if not on, First Nations people's land, and in as part of honoring Indigenous partnerships. So any of that you've done, and that belief you have, why not put it on your website? This is your business calling card. Here's another example. Rave about the work that you're doing when it comes to rewards and recognition. If you have safety awards, you have safety programs, if you have good catch, here's one that is a press release. It's on release on the page, and make it really visible. And don't just wait for it to be press releases like this one. I just grabbed a little bit of a screen capture of it. By the way, I love that there's a picture of an actual employee in what they would be wearing on the job by the safety board. It really, if you just had words, it would not do the same as having a picture. So this is a great example. And so, have some of your awards, talk about them, but also, don't hesitate to have this on your careers page as well. Speaking of which, many of your website doesn't have a career page, or if you do, it doesn't have stories. So really, this is the place if people are considering working in rail or shortline rail, or moving the jump from the larger to considering working for you. Really amplify and elevate your presence in your careers section of your website. And if you don't have one, some of you don't even have a career section or don't have job postings, I would strongly encourage you to prioritize that, having that page above all the other things that are on your list. If you have a gap in employees, or if you have this growing, looming retirement boom that's coming, please emphasize your career section. I love this example where you had, and this is just a quick screen capture of a few, showing again actual employees on their actual locations, and having a quote from them. This doesn't feel like corporate speak when it's people that you've said this is their name, this is their role, and these are their words, and the words are short and they're meaningful. So if I'm thinking, I don't know, as a woman, somebody who defines herself as she, her, if I'm going to have a place of belonging in this shortline rail, and I see that Kim has said it's an opportunity to surpass myself and distinguish myself in a mainly masculine field, I may think, great, you know what? If Kim can do it, I can do it. I want to be part of that. And if, let's say, you are more, maybe you're more like Daniel, but you have a daughter and you think, you know what? I know I probably fit because as somebody who defines himself as he, him, and, having a tenure in this sector, he may feel like, I know I belong. He maybe doesn't realize if his grown daughters or daughters entering the workforce would belong. Seeing that means, if we want to keep this as a family, a multi-generational business, I might direct my daughter to see and read and learn about other people like Kim on this page. And there's no reason why you can't. If you don't work for SFP, why not go to their website, see how they do it? Here's another great example. This is a shortline rail company out of the US, and they've done a lot of work on their website. And I appreciate that some of your a Shortline reel are very small and others you're huge. Can do, you are a great example of that. Talking about how big you are in terms of an employee base, your infrastructure, your investments. So I recognize there's a huge range. I I would still strongly encourage you to think about where you're making a strategic spend on your website, putting actual pictures of people and making them a big focus on your website speaks volumes, because even if you didn't have a lot of extra pages, such as career pages, if my first opportunity to see on your website are actual people who work for you, and I see visually myself in these pictures, it gives an impression for you as prospective employees and maybe existing employees that people matter. Also for your customers, they want to see your employees. They want to see that you care about your employees, that your employees are safe, they're wearing safety gear, they are, that there's a sense of community. People want to buy from other people like them. And so this is a great example. So on this website, if you choose to go there, you can see they have their their very first, we call it top of the fold. So their very first header on their website, on their homepage, there's 3 rotating images. This is the first one. I love that it's a woman moving the weight of the world. Your message can still have an employee attached to it. Everything starts with safety. There's a gentleman, different ethnicity. And then there's another gentleman, yet a different ethnicity, delivering bold action on sustainability. So you have those are 3 obviously core values of you as an organization with employees that match. And these images, you can, take a look, just scan. I created a little bit of a picture here about what it might look like on a mobile app. So you see pictures. These I don't think these are stock images. And if they are, please create, images. It doesn't cost a lot of money to have a photographer take a couple of pictures. Or if you don't have a professional photographer on your careers page, people will be very forgiving if you have pictures of real people. They don't have to be polished. Like this page or like this page. Real is better than stock images, but pictures of people that are stock images are better than text. And of course, text is better than not having anything at all. So my friends, this is part of that philosophy of stay. And I encourage you to be asking stay-based questions with the people who are currently with you. And I think you'll actually find that there's a lot of insights that you hear, for example, about what you should be putting out there to encourage people to come and work for you based on the reasons people say why they work for you already. That QR code takes you to my website, to the cool stuff page, where you can download the stay interview questions, the recognition checklist I talked about at our session, and all kinds of other coaching resources and recognition resources and ideas. Let me wrap up by saying just a few last things. Number 1, brains like hearts not only go where they're appreciated, they also stay where they're appreciated. So just another call to action for you to remember that this is not fluffy stuff. This is an ROI business game changer. In fact, if you want to calculate the ROI, your return on investment of reducing turnover, and also your ROI of increasing engagement, just send me a quick message, info@greatnessmagnified.com, and I will send you the calculator. You can literally see how much it's costing you if you don't focus on boosting engagement and reducing turnover. This is all part of the frog philosophy: forever recognize others' greatness. It's not recognize others' greatness when it's convenient, when we have a grant, when it's Fridays. This is forever, my friends, because people are not disposable, as we all know. And the people, when they say, I'm not going to thank people for just doing their job. Well, what if they stop doing their job? What if they cut corners? What if they choose to leave? What if they call in sick? What if they don't support their colleagues? What if they don't train the next new person who joins your organization? We want to appreciate people for doing their job. We want to frog everybody. We want everyone to believe that they have an essential role because they do. We literally could not keep our organizations going without them. I hope you've been using your frog cards, your compliment cards freely. And let me just say this: we were in the nation's capital at a time of the Tulip Festival. The heritage of the Tulip Festival was actually a beautiful gesture of recognition and appreciation. When we entered the war in the Second World War, we helped to free the Netherlands of Nazi rule. So the Dutch people sent over tulips to say thank you to Canadians. Not only that, it was a really fun story. You can Google it if you want. We also made room in the Ottawa hospital for the princess of the royal family from the Netherlands to have uh, uh, I can't remember the exact words, but to make it a neutral state, basically, so that the royal baby could be born in a non-Canadian part of the hospital. So the royal family has been sending over tulips to say thank you since the Second World War. So you literally were in the nation's capital at a time when recognition was in bloom. So, my friends, this is our opportunity to bloom and to make sure that our appreciation blossoms and not only keeps the people we have, it attracts the next generation and all of the other people who are looking for meaningful, purpose-driven work, which they can get in your organization. My name's Sarah McDaniel. I'm Canada's recognition expert. It's been an honor to speak for you, and here are all of my places you can find me on social. And I appreciate you. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for getting the food and resources to my family and families across Canada. You're invisible heroes, but you're not invisible to me. Thank you so much.